Joining me now is criminologist Dr. Debbie Goodman. Dr. Goodman, so great to see you. I'm so excited to talk about this case with you. I know you have great insight here. So we're hearing now from this new police chief there in Boulder, hopeful that 2025 is reportedly going to be the year that this case is finally solved. But again, this case is nearly 30 years old. Do you think it will ever be solved?
Certainly. Good afternoon, Nichole, and always a pleasure to join you. Do I think it can and will be solved? I absolutely do. I'm very hopeful, just like the rest of the world, that new evidence, new ways of analyzing the evidence will be revealed. And I heard your segment with Brian Enton, and I would just comment to say that even 28 years ago, Nichole, when I first heard about the case, and I was a professor then as I am now, and I profiled the case, and I actually did not believe then, nor do I believe now, that any of the relatives were involved in this. I do not believe Father John, who's now in his 80s, and wife Patsy, who has since passed, and Brother Burke. For me, as a criminologist, there would simply be no motivation. However, I do understand how and why they would have been looked at, because certainly the first circle, if you will, of how to profile, at least in my mind, is always the immediate family. But once they're ruled out, then I think we go to what I would call associates. So I do have a theory about this, and I feel strongly who did this is an associate of Mr. Ramsey. And I'd be looking now at individuals who may have been fired or potentially with employment discord back in 95, 96. And I think we may find some interesting information there.
And so there is DNA in this case. Some of it's been contaminated. At times they've said that there's just not enough for it. What do you think is key here, Dr. Goodman? Is this a DNA case? Is this an evidence, a circumstantial evidence case? Is this a case of common sense? And what is actually logical when we look at all the facts? What is it going to take?
Absolutely, Nichole, all of the above. First, if we look at the tangible evidence, then we would be looking at things like hair, print, blood, urine, semen, saliva, because that's what could be tested. And what has to happen within the testing, as we've discussed on some of these other cases, we referred to it as IgG formally, investigative genetic genealogy, but informally we simply say genetic genealogy. And what that speaks to is really a compare circumstance. So what's being compared, of course, are these items we just mentioned to the comparative data, in these databases of familial relations potentially. So that's going to be very important, but you mentioned something that's also critical, and that's circumstantial evidence. So we need to take a look, I think, at people who potentially had some ill will toward this family. I know you have the ransom note up, and it was interesting, right? Even 28 years ago, when I saw the Christmas bonus and the amount, and I immediately discarded that as thinking it can't possibly be the father. It's almost as if somebody read or researched how to write a ransom note 101. And if we go back to that note, or just to comment on it, the writer of that note speaks in a plural manner, with we, as if there would be more than one person. I absolutely then and now do not agree with that. It would be a singular person, not plural. And at some point also, there's reference in that letter, Mr. Ramsey, a little more of a formal approach. And then there's something more informal, John. So for me, the note is really just something more as a disguise or a ploy, as if the actual killer thinks that people would think it's the family, but I don't see any motivation there for any of those family members to have done this horrible crime.
Thanks for watching. Go to joinnn.com to find NewsNation on your screen. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.